Hi, this is Jonah, and today we are going to be going over cryptojacking malware. So here's what we're going to be going over in this presentation. First, we're going to go over a few cryptocurrency and crypto mining concepts, and you need to understand those before going into cryptojacking malware. We're going to briefly discuss a few recent malware trends showing this malware, and also going a few defensive techniques on how to prevent and identify this malware on a device. And then we're going to have a few quick takeaways on this malware and a brief conclusion. And lastly, we're going to show a quick demonstration on how easy it can be to identify this malware on a device. So what is cryptocurrency? So cryptocurrency is essentially a electronic form of currency that can be mined with processors and GPUs computing cryptographic blocks. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on how that is done because there's a lot more math and a lot more information there than I want to go into. So that's a little bit out of the scope of this lab. But essentially, devices mine this cryptocurrency and it is added to a user's wallet. These blocks that are being mined are added to a blockchain, and this blockchain is actually sort of best described as a decentralized ledger. Everyone who mines this type of cryptocurrency has this shared ledger, and typically, this is not always the case, but typically, transactions and ownership of the cryptocurrency is recorded because of this blockchain. And some of the benefits of cryptocurrency is a reduction of fraud. It's universally accepted between multiple countries and different shops, and the decentralization of it actually ensures that it's not really going to be like taken down or removed anytime soon. So onward to cryptojacking malware. So cryptojacking is the unauthorized use of crypto mining on someone's box. So the main goal for cryptojacking malware developers is to mine on a device for as long as they can, so that the device can continue mining and making money for the attacker's wallet. So the big goals that developers will have is to maintain stealth, persistence, and propagation. Stealth is really the hardest one for them because crypto mining requires a lot of system resources typically, unless you throttle it. So persistence is also really important because users will try to, users will restart their device, and attackers want to make sure that they can keep their cryptojacker on the victim's box. So some common places that that malware developers will keep their persistence is in the registry settings, startup settings, scheduled tasks. And lastly, probably the one that's like probably the most important is propagation. How do the attackers get their cryptojacker malware on victim boxes? Some really popular ways are to kind of make variants of other well-known malware. So an example would be to use the WannaCry worm that uses the Eternal Blue exploit to initially exploit onto boxes and then change the payload to cryptojacking malware. Another common technique is to infect a document and have a macro virus of some form and send that to a unknowing user. And then another technique that we're going to see later on in this demonstration is to set up a web server that enables a JavaScript, and have, when a user browses to that website, it will start up a lightweight miner in the web browser, and we'll see that later on. So the challenges that some malware developers have is that cryptojacking requires internet access in order for the malware to access and mine. For the malware to mine cryptocurrency, it needs to access the blockchain, at least the most recent version of the blockchain. And the other challenge that they have is maintaining stealth, but also having a decent amount of system resources to actually mine. So there's always a challenge between how much should they be mining or how stealthy should they be. So recent malware trends have shown that cryptojacking has been increasing steadily since like late 2017, and it's been really popularized. And actually, there have been announcements that there have been routers that have been injecting this type of malware when users browse to websites. So essentially, when a user would open their browser, it would they would immediately start mining cryptocurrency. And malware developers have been using popularized exploits. So, like I said before, like WannaCry, as a means to basically drop the crypto miner on a victim box. And what's interesting is that attackers have always had the main goal of getting money. And this seems to be the fastest and easiest way that they can do that. So before, way back when, they would steal information and sell it. But that required actually exfiltrating data, storing data, and then selling the data all in a safe fashion. But this doesn't require any of that because it's mining and going directly into the attacker's wallet. And then the other technique that came up a few years ago was ransomware. But that requires a lot of user interaction, actually. So they'll need to browse to some sketchy site and actually make a payment. And it turns out that some reports have shown that a lot of infected users will just reset their box. Like they'll just go under the assumption that their data is gone and they'll just move on. So it might not be as effective now as it first was. So here are a few defensive techniques for. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background, I apologize. Here are some defensive techniques for cryptojacking malware. So as far as prevention techniques go, this is just some generic technique. So basically keep things updated, keep your system updated, security updates updated, and especially keep your applications updated, especially your web browsers. One second. Sorry. And then install an ad blocker, and that will actually, you'll see how effective ad blockers and script blockers can be later on in the demo. You also want to disable macros, especially if you're downloading documents from sketchy places. And limiting network access can actually be a big hindrance for this type of malware. And we'll see that later on. Again, it needs to access the blockchain, and if it can't do that, then it can't mine properly. And then as far as detecting this goes, it's somewhat easier than some other types of malware because it uses so many system resources. So long as you monitor and limit the processes, running processes, what's installed on your disk, what's running in memory, your startup applications, and like your external network connections, you should be able to detect this type of malware fairly easily. And we'll see that later on. So the main takeaways of this is that money is always the goal for malware developers. And recently, cryptojacking malware is just the fastest way that they can do that, which is why I think it's going to be increasing in the future. And people need to know what their box behaves like normally in order to identify abnormal behavior. So, like I said before, I think this is going to be really popular in the near future as well as like several years from now because it's directly making the users money. Like in the past, if a malware developer infected 100 boxes with like say ransomware, maybe only like 10 of those will actually transmit them money. Now, with all those 100 infected boxes, they can immediately be making money for the developer. So crypto mining is not inherently destructive. Like you're not going to be losing data really, but it does wear down on your hardware and it can really cost a lot of money in electricity, depending on how beefy the system is. And lastly, systems infected with cryptojacking malware should just try and limit system resources. So users should just try and monitor what is normal and what is not normal. So here's a quick demonstration So here I have my Flare VM that we made in a previous lab, and mainly what we're going to be looking at is this process explorer. Here in the bottom left, this is typically hanging out between like 3 and 15% of CPU usage, and you're going to see that dramatically change when I go to a site that's actually a crypto miner for Monero cryptocurrency. So this site here actually really helped me find this. So what we're going to be going after is this CoinHive miner. So what this does is this CoinHive JavaScript library is what some websites will call in order to start up a miner in the user's browser. So this site listed here, public www, is actually what does that. And so I went through some of these sites, and eventually I found a very sketchy looking one. So this is the list of sites that have this, that call this type of library. And here you can see it gives you a warning that you need to verify yourself, and it's very upfront and very honest about it. So we don't see that running in the processes yet because I have this no script preventing it. So what we're going to do is enable this to temporarily allow this, and then it's going to reload. And now if we go to Process Explorer, you should see that our processes, or our Firefox process, is going berserk. So we are literally at 100% CPU usage, and you can see here that giant spike there. So there's that, and what's really cool about this page is that compared to some other pages I looked at, this one is very simplistic. There's really not a whole ton going on. So here it is calling that JavaScript, and then over here you can actually see the wallet that it's mining for. So here, CoinHive user, here's the wallet ID. And then what's interesting here is this throttle. So this is literally the lowest value that you can enter to throttle the miner. So this has no throttling. Compared to some other sites that I visited, this one is just like full on, like mine as much as possible. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, that's just a quick example of how easy it can be to set up a crypto miner in a web browser. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.